Hello, everyone. Welcome. This is Criminal Profiler Pat Brown, and this is Patron Hangout number 217. And yes, I'm here with the big glasses. And ow, for some reason, I'm getting these. You see the big white light in them? I can't figure out where it's coming from. I'm trying to figure out how to block that. I don't know where it's coming from. Isn't that weird? I know it'll be irritating for me and you, but I have to wear these glasses right now because, yes, I have finished the cataract surgery and it went great. So when I have my glasses off, I see everything almost 20/20 or 20/20. I don't know yet. I have to get the final test. But of course, now I need reading glasses again. And it'll take I think it's 4 weeks before they can get the proper numbers so I can get my reading glasses the way I want them, because I want to get multifocal ones for the phone, the computer, and for blank up here so I can see out. And these are the same kind of thing, but these are $35 from CVS, and they're kind of clunky and ugly. But if I want to see what you said and I want to read this, I have to use these for a few weeks. So, but I'm having trouble with they really reflect light badly. So, yeah. What? Are you having an issue? Kara, does anybody else see me? Because according to my side, I'm on. Oh, okay, you can see me. Okay. Tetra had an issue. The glasses suit you. Well, I don't really like these. I like, I don't have my other ones here. My other ones are thinner and aren't so massive. So, and they don't reflect light like this. So they'll be great in 4 weeks. But meanwhile, wait a minute, what? Hi, Royal Watcher. Hi. I don't know if I told you this before, but apparently she asked ChatGPT if she was Madeleine. Oh, you're talking about the fake Maddie, and she asked ChatGPT if she was Madeleine McCann. What did ChatGPT tell her? Was I'd like to know. So there I am. There she is. That was weird. Was there something wrong in the beginning that nobody saw me? Okay, I hope it's all good. Yeah, these last few weeks have been sort of a technical nightmare in one way or the other. So, but tell me if you couldn't see me when I started the show, because that's really weird. Okay, all right, we'll move on. Speaking of, by the way, okay, if you're new to the show, you didn't see me and now you see me. Oh, really? ChatGPT never says I don't know, and that's scary. Yeah, I've been having. When I did my last show, I told you about how Grok gave me all this information, and I'm gonna take this off when I can because I don't like the lights flashing. Grok told me all this stuff, and I'm like started challenging Grok because I said this don't make sense. And then that was on my iPad. Then I went over to my iPhone and I asked the same question, and he said, "Oh no, the police never found that crime location." And I'm like, "Yeah, well that's what I thought." I thought there was information. This is a location, the exact address. He goes, "I don't know who you're listening to, but you got to stop listening to sources that aren't credible." I said, "The source was you, Grok, over on my iPad." You lying dog. You have multiple personality problem or something. So you have to be very careful with any of the AI stuff because it's weird that when the AI goes and gets information, they in seconds can pull in a massive amount of information, but that doesn't mean the information is necessarily credible. And if they're pulling it from 1,000 different places, they can be pulling it off of people who have a book that is full of crap, or a podcast or YouTube. If somebody said something somewhere, and they seem to have AI, Grok, whatever your ChatGPT, have a problem discerning the validity of the information. So while they'll bring a lot of sources, if you don't know what those sources are and you just start believing them, you're going to be in trouble. So anyway, so yeah, be careful of that. And by the way, I just did want to do the welcome thing. So anybody who's new to the channel, please do support this educational channel. Please do subscribe. Please do hit the bell to get notifications about all my shows. Otherwise, the algorithm doesn't like me anyway. So if you don't give a little encouragement and say, hey, I want to know about when she has a new show, you probably won't find out. And check my playlist. And if you'd like to be in the chat room with these really nice people, and you would like to support me a little bit more, it's $5 a month to join Patreon in the link below. And there are 2 live shows a week, which are patron only for the most part. So we're a nice community and we get to know each other, and it's really great. And the reason I do this, why I do want Patreon, is because I like people who come here to learn, to like education, not just gossip and all that. So now I'm going to check some of your comments here. AI, this too shall pass. I don't know. It's Grok is arguing with chat. It's I like Martina says AI nonsense is going to be the end of humanity. Well, it's problematic because it's one of these tools that can be a tool. And if you don't use it properly, you can really be in trouble. Let me explain one of them, because I was going to talk about this today. It's let me see if I can find my little article on it. Hold on a sec. I know I brought it over here. So come on, you cannot do this to me. I'm already starting the show by not being able to find stuff. Where'd my, can't believe it. Okay, I can't find it, but I have lost it. What the heck? Anyway, I know what I was talking about. What people are doing is they're using Chat GPT, and what they're doing is they will go on these, they'll be texting back and forth with a girl or a guy, and kind of the pre-date type of thing, where online dating type of stuff. And the person asks them a question, and they'll say like, "Oh, do you have a favorite older movie, from back in the days of black and white?" And a person on the other end's going, "Duh, I never watched any of those movies, man." So he goes to ChatGPT and goes, and then he goes, "Oh yes, I really loved Humphrey Bogart and Lauren Bacall. I think Casablanca was fabulous," whatever. And all of a sudden she's like, "Oh my God, he knows these things, and he's just like me." And so no matter what the person asks, what questions come in, you could hit that information thing, and then they'll even give you a conversation so you can just read it off. So, you come off as really intelligent or really likable or really knowledgeable or really matching. And then you get together and she's waiting for that guy to come in and he walks in. So, yeah. And it's the same thing with filters, because like last show, I think that's when my filter failed. So what happened was I was like halfway through the show and I had a technical difficulty. So I had to go back out and come back in. When I came back in, the filter wasn't on anymore. And I'm like, holy crap. I look pretty good in the beginning of the show. And I look like shit the rest of the show. So filters can, again, make you see something is not exactly as the person might be. And now now you can use it on videos as well. So one of the things you used to be able to do is when you went to Match.com or whatever, you're on Tinder, wherever you're at, and you look at a picture of somebody, it's like, is this a fake picture, right? Well, the problem now is if you go to video, they could use AI and they could be anybody they want. But even if it is you in the picture, but you don't look that good, you can put the filter on for video, and the person will be looking at you going, dang, So I could go on video. Now this actually, Patreon, I'm sorry, StreamYard, which I use, doesn't have very high filters. And so and for me, they really don't do that much, but they still help me a little. But if I get a really great filter, I can be on looking like I'm 30 years old instead of 70. So I can have a really good time I can cougar some young men. I may not want to ever meet them in person, but I could have fun until then. So, but it's just something to understand that things aren't necessarily as they seem. So be careful of that. Now let's go to the Maddie thing, by the way. Let's go to Maddie, because fake Maddie was in court. Here she is with her psycho friend, Julia Wandelt, and Karen Sprague. Julia, of course, is the P word, and the woman on the right who's full of conspiracy theories. Maybe she's just nuts. I don't know. But anyway, they're in the Leicester Crown Court, and of course she has been claiming that I am Madeleine Mccann, of course, which she is not. Now, they did do DNA, and it's come back as not she has no connection DNA-wise to the McCanns, which we all knew forever. So I think, what is she saying now? Let me find the article on that one. I think that one's still here. Here we go. So the jury, by the way, is out right now. So the case has been presented. The jury is, I don't know how long the jury needs to figure out this thing, but anyway, jury retires in the trial of women alleged to have stalked Kate and Jerry McCann from Leicestershire. All right, so they're retiring to consider the verdicts. So they turned up at the couple's home, these two crazy ladies, and harassed them through phone calls, messages, and then at their home, harassed their family members and all that stuff. And the Crown put forward, quote, unequivocal scientific evidence from a forensic expert that shows Wandelt from Southwest Poland does not match Madeleine's DNA profile. She is not the daughter, and she has no familial link to the McCanns. Okay, she said, but she had told them in court, she had childhood memories of being with the McCann family. Now, mind you, if she was only with the McCann family until she was abducted, she was less than 4 years old. I have zero memory of before I was 4 years old. Got nothing. But she has great memories. She has memories of being with the family, including playing Ring-a-Ring-a Roses and feeding Madeleine's younger brother, Sean, as well as memories of being abducted and abused. She has a very fertile imagination. She also alleges, so what she supposedly did was banged on the door of the couple's address, attended a vigil for Madeleine, sent social media messages to Sean McCann and his twin sister, Amelie. And then the couple received a letter from her which said, "Dear Mom," and was signed, "Lots of love, Madeleine." Now, and the other one, who was 61 years old, the other crazy, she's alleged of perpetuated conspiracy theories, including telling the police that Mr. and Mrs. McCann arranged the kidnapping and the abduction of their 3-year-old daughter. So I'm not sure why Madeleine wants to go back to her kidnapping parents, had her abducted and abused. But anyway, in a closing speech to jurors, Crown Counsel said that they were being cruel and horrible and blah, blah, blah. Okay, so, however, her attorney, Wandelt, urged the jurors to acquit her, arguing that she was confused about her parental background and only approached the couple demanding a DNA test when at the end of her tether. No, she already had a DNA test, which proved that she was 100% Polish. So that kind of knocked out the McCanns way back when. And she was the wrong age. And it's all nonsense. And she's claimed to be other people as well. She suffers, I put the word suffers. She makes other people suffer. She basically exhibits Munchausen syndrome, and that she wants attention by being a victim. And that Munchausen syndrome is actually a behavior of a psychopath. And she, without doing the things that she did, she would not have been out here famous in the world. And because of a lot of YouTubers who had her on their shows to allow her a platform, it's one thing to say, people can say, well, you're talking about it too. You're giving, that's true. But I would never have her on my show. I would never give her a platform. So when you give people like this a platform, you're out there to make money and get attention yourself. So now, what does that say about you, YouTubers, if you're doing that? She should never have been on any platform, any place. But now she's in court, and I hope they find her guilty. I hope she goes to prison. But I'm going to say she'll probably get a slap on the wrist. Now, having said all this, as anyone knows, I am not a fan of the McCanns. I do not believe Madeleine was abducted. I have my viewpoints on that, and if you have never heard my theories on that, you might want to go over to this. This is on YouTube. It's called Profile of the Disappearance of Madeleine McCann. This is my book that is also available on every place but Amazon, because the McCanns had their lawyers, Carter Ruck, threaten Amazon, and Amazon removed the book so they wouldn't get sued. So my book is available at Barnes & Noble and Smashwords and Apple and every place else. But you can get it for free if you just go over to the link on, go find it on YouTube. This is an audio version. I read my whole book. So yeah. So if you don't understand what's happening with the McCanns and the whole case, please check it out. And the other thing I want to say about that before I go to some of your comments on this, there is a new resurgence ever since what's his face, not blanking his name, the one who just wrote that big fat book, I'm drawing a blank, and Bernd Stellander, sorry. Bernd Stellander wrote his book, it was a 400-page book, and which he sent to me and wanted me to review it, which I did, and now he hates me. And so he tried to move the date of what happened to Madeleine from the date that has always been there, which was when they went to the tapas on the 3rd. They went to the tapas and something happened while they were at the tapas. Either she died from an accidental overdose or fell off the couch, and then Jerry McCann removed her from the residence, trying to stage an abduction, or there was an abduction. Either way. Gonzalo Amaral, the detective on the case, believes this happened on May the 3rd. I absolutely believe it happened on May the 3rd. And Bernd Stellander's moved it back a few days, and he's got like 20 or 30 people involved in this massive cover-up. It makes zero sense, in my opinion, as a profiler. But I have seen more people, very nice people, going down this road. It's earlier. The whole crash records were faked. None of it makes any sense, in my opinion, because simpler is truer. And when you move it back, you have too many people and too much stuff being done, and nobody's going to do all that. If something happened earlier to Madeleine, they would have just taken care of it quickly, just like I think they did on the 3rd. That's what the evidence supports. And because the biggest piece of evidence is a Smith sighting, and the McCanns ignored a sighting of a man carrying a child away from the direction of their vacation flat at the time it happened, and they ignored that completely. And later on, they're like, "Oh, maybe," yeah. But they didn't want people looking at that man carrying a child away. And any parent of a missing child, a kidnapped child, would be all over that, and they weren't. And that's because I believe the most likely reason is that it was Jerry McCann. And if that's true, because the Smith sighting is so important, then it had to have happened on that day. And to move it back a few days, to me, makes zero sense. And I'm going to stand by that as a professional, as a profiler, as a person who understands how crimes work. And Bernd Stellander, I have my opinions on him, and he's allowed to have his opinion. But I'm not fond of him at this point in time because there's good reasons. But the other people are very nice people. I just think they're all going down the wrong road. I think it's one of these things that's now taken another life, and when it goes all across the platforms and YouTube, because it's something people can get involved with and get excited about, it happens. And I think that's why fake Maddie got so much attention too. Side note, Taylor says, oh, hold on a second. Let me get back to that in a second. Hold on one more second here. I would choose JonBenet, but McCann's are a close second. If you're talking about, hold on, let me go back because I think your comments are good, and one could almost feel sorry for the McCanns pursued by crazies. Almost. Yes, if you absolutely believe Madeleine McCann was abducted, that would feel extremely sorry for them. I just can't get past the evidence. And something else I want to point out to you. One of the tests I have on a lot of people who are either profilers or retired law enforcement who have YouTube channels. One of my tests there are the McCanns and the JonBenet Ramsey case. If you claim that Madeleine was abducted and just talk about all the suspects and never mention anything about the actual evidence, that tells me you don't want to get in trouble with your career. You don't want to crash your appearances. So you're willing to go along with the program. That's the popular one because you won't speak the truth. Now, if you want to discuss the evidence and if you can argue that the evidence does prove an abduction, then do that. Or if you can say, I'm on the fence, I'm okay with that. But if you completely ignore the evidence and simply say, oh, We're looking to figure out who abducted Madeleine Mccann, but you won't talk about the evidence that there was no evidence of abduction. I have a problem with you. And there's some very well-known people who do this all the time. And the second case is the Ramsey case. If you can talk about that somebody came into the house and did this to her and ignore all the other evidence to the contrary, then are you just trying to protect your career, make money? And I understand sometimes that you don't want to screw yourself over by doing the unpopular thing, but still, those are my two test cases. Yeah, it's only $2.99. It's cheap, but you can also listen to it for free on YouTube. So let's see. I don't think Maddie is alive. Well, Maddie clearly wasn't alive, regardless of whether she was abducted or not. She would have been dead if something happened in the vacation flat. Then she wasn't alive when her parent Jerry found her. If Jerry didn't find her, if he came back and found and Kate came back and found she was missing and she had truly been abducted, she would have been dead within hours anyway, because that's what child predators do. But Maddie is not alive. The parents know that, and that's why they don't respond much to new developments. Absolutely. However, what they should be responding to is suspects who they could be angry about because they kidnapped and killed their child. And Jerry had some really weird thing to say, like, I know maybe it was just some freaky thing that happened in your brain, and I think he was talking about himself, and you did something wrong. That's what you think of a child, a sex offender who's abducted your kid and maybe is torturing her. And no, you're talking about yourself. But yeah. Hold on one second. I do struggle with Burt's theories. I think Kate's grief is genuine. Absolutely. Genuine. Absolutely. Even if it wasn't actually, she appears to be grieving. Absolutely. I struggle to believe she played it out. Yeah. You don't hide, you don't have the kid dead, and then you do all these things, and then you pretend you're happy, and then you go out and drinking. No, this is just nonsense. When she found her daughter was missing, which she did because the child was already not in the vacation flat, she was horrified, distraught. And then and Jerry wasn't happy either. I mean, neither one of them wanted to lose their child. Both of them grieved. There's no question they grieved. But if you make a terrible error and you're trying to save your butt, you're trying to save the other children from, you're trying to save yourself from going to prison. You're trying to save your other children from being removed from your custody. You're trying to save your careers, your whole family. You can still grieve and look really sad because you are. It doesn't mean that what you're saying is true. So that's basically it. Your test too. They're tricky ones. And, one of the things I do, and I'm going to talk about this in a future video, is one of the reasons I don't do shows with panels and bring people on to talk about whatever is because I don't take sides. I'm not on the police side, and I'm not on the victim side. I'm not on another popular YouTuber side, or because I want to ingratiate myself with everybody so I can keep going and make lots of money. I don't do that. I simply analyze cases for educational purposes, and I analyze the evidence, whether it make me popular or it doesn't. So, yeah, she did say strange and creepy things in her book. That's true. And her book told me a lot. So I found that very, very fascinating. Okay, I want to go back to that really good question. All right. Which was, wait a minute, where'd it go? Okay, a side note, but I'm very curious. If you had a magic wand and you could choose one case for the total truth to come out, which case would you choose? Well, I would choose the case that's the first case in my book. That case that got me into profile. The case where I suspected my renter of having committed a sexual homicide. And oops, I can't get that back now. Hold on a second. That started my career. And well, actually, I got something in my mouth there. Since he lived in my house, and I found he was at the location of the crime at approximately the time it happened. And he clearly had psychopathic, check down the whole list. He had them all. I found evidence in my house. I turned it into the police. They did not pursue it. They didn't even interview him. And it took me 7 years to get the case reopened. They blamed a local fellow who lived near the location, and it wasn't him, and never was him. And the family appreciated my intervention in the case because they said I took their son. His son committed suicide, and then on top of that, they claimed he was a serial killer, and it was the most horrifying thing. And it wasn't this kid, and they were very thankful that I got his name cleared. And then I put the book, when the book came out. Suddenly after the book came out, they charged another fellow with the crime, and who was already in prison for rapes. Supposedly had DNA that matched him to the crime scene, although nothing else. He was never ever proven to be at the crime scene or in the location, and nothing else. But they had DNA. I mean, hey, DNA, you can't argue with that. Except I can, because when the reason they told me my suspect wasn't ever charged, because they believed it was him. 7 years later, when the new detective was there, he's like, "This is the guy. You're right." They said they had zero DNA. And they not only did they have zero DNA, it wasn't a case that they didn't have. It was back in it was 1990 when the crime occurred, and so there was RFLP testing. So yes, later testing could have gotten like touch DNA these days and all that. But that wasn't the problem. There was no DNA. You can't test DNA that doesn't exist. There was no DNA, and I knew that because that is information I had gotten from the powers that be. So if there was no DNA, which is why my suspect wasn't charged, and he was a suspect up until the day my book came out, and for some reason, this other guy already in prison was charged, and he went to court, and on the second day they went to court, he took an Alford plea and said, "Okay, you got me, and but I didn't kill that girl," and he was already in prison for life, and what I was told was that he was unhappy being in the local jail because he couldn't get the drugs, and he was afraid he was going to lose his room over at the state prison. And so he was just like, yeah, whatever. And the defense attorney told me they thought the DNA thing was not credible. So I'm going to go for a FOIA request, but I have to wait. Because of the police department that is involved in this at this point in time is kind of the police department my daughter works for. I don't want to mess her up, you know what I mean? So I'll wait till she retires, and then I'll go for that. That would be the number one, just because I don't have to be right. I mean, there was every reason to believe it was this guy, and I said to the police, look, if it's not him, fine. I'm just doing my citizen's duty, and if there's not enough evidence to convict him, or it turns out not to be him, he's just wildly, coincidentally at the location throwing away all his clothing and stuff when he gets home. Okay, it's just one of those things. I'm not taking it personally, but still, I would like to know. So that'll be the number one. And I think number two would be Madeleine Mccann. Since I've been very vocal about that for so many years, and have a book on the market, which I'm very, I've stated for so many years that it was not an abduction. I think I would be nice if that were proven at some point, but sometimes the problem comes down to, and the best movie you can ever see on this whole subject is called The Pledge with Jack Nicholson, where he investigates a case, believes he's right, and he actually, I don't want to run for you, but basically, if the circumstances or lies come through, if somebody's convicted of a crime they didn't commit, that you think that somebody else committed, well, you look like a moron because, hey, that person you said was guilty. Oh, well, he wasn't. Obviously, they've just convicted somebody else. But just because they convicted somebody else doesn't mean that guy was guilty. I have a couple of cases which I worked on, and I know damn well the guy that's convicted didn't do it. And not that he wasn't a scumbag, mind you, but that their evidence was so weak and so ridiculous. I'm like, what? Because, and that would be, just to say, the other one would be the Superbikes murder of South Carolina, where they have convicted I forget even the names of the cases I work on. They convicted a guy who was a serial killer, and they convicted him for a mass murder of 4 people in a motorcycle shop. But he did not do it. I absolutely know he did not do it. No, it's an absolute lie, because I know the autopsy reports, and I know the ballistics reports, and I know the timing. He didn't do it. But the crooked sheriff, his name was Sheriff Wright, who was really Sheriff Wrong. When he got him for the serial homicides, he just tagged that other one on, and he gave him an opportunity to plead guilty to the Superbikes murder to get out of the death penalty on the serial killer stuff. And the sheriff got to go down as a hero for solving the crime. Sheriff, by the way, was indicted recently for all kinds of crooked stuff that he was doing down there, because he's a piece of crap. So that's another one. Todd Kolep, that's the name. Todd Kolep. He was the one that was convicted. And I went to all the media outlets and I said, look, I have proof. I have proof here that he didn't do it, because he was convicted. The main thing was that he knew something only the police and the killer knew, that all 4 victims were shot in the forehead. And I have the autopsy report, and not one of those people was shot in the forehead. So it's a complete lie. But Todd Kolep, all over 48 hours, all kinds of, everybody's out there saying, oh, well, he was a Superbikes killer. He never was a Superbikes killer. So yeah, I think I would like that one to exonerate myself from people saying, oh, see, you're wrong. I don't believe I was wrong at all, although I can be wrong. Okay. Generally speaking, when you profile any crime, it's just part of a police investigation that helps you follow avenues. And it could be that you some good information you had, and you analyzed and thought, this is a good avenue. Turns out not to be the right avenue. Maybe it was like you were like 80% here, but 20% here, but the 20% turns out to be the right one, but maybe you didn't have enough information, or maybe you just, misanalyzed, because we're not perfect. So that's my theory on that. The Pledge is fab. Oh, God, I'm glad you've seen it. Oh, now my battery's dying. Hold on a second. A little catastrophe here. So on. Hold on a second. I'll have technical problems again. Let's see. I think cases should be profiled by a male and a female, as female profiles can think differently to male profilers. Yes and no. The biggest problem with profiling in general is that they're not actually profiling the evidence. They're profiling the killer in some kind of psychological crap, which is usually useless. So, yeah. Let's see. Wait, what is this? Who are you talking about here? Oh, this one. Okay. The Arizona father that left his 3-year-old in a hot car deleted himself before he was sent to jail. Yeah, he committed suicide. And I will use the word suicide. I refuse to play that game, even though that does sometimes get me demonetized. Let's talk about that case, because I was asked to talk about the case, and I will. All right. Where is that guy? That is Arizona Dad. All right. So this guy, who is this guy, this character here, Christopher, I don't know how to pronounce his name, Sholtes, Christopher Sholtes. All right. So what happened? This guy. All right. So an Arizona man who pleaded guilty to murdering his 2-year-old daughter after she died in a hot car parked in the family's driveway was found deceased this morning. He was 38 years old. He had been arrested for this crime, and he has committed, he's deceased. His cause of death is under investigation. So, I guess he could have just killed over. So maybe he didn't commit suicide. So he died on the same day he was he was at home. He died on the same day he was to turn himself in following a court hearing. So he was hoping to get out of all of this, and anyway, he wasn't going to. All right. He surprised many last month. Days before his trial was set, he pleaded guilty to murder for the hot car death of his 2-year-old daughter. He's facing between 20 and 30 years in prison. Had he gone to trial, life in prison, death penalty even. I don't think he would have gone to death penalty, because it wasn't premeditated homicide. It was, I'll read some of this, you'll see. The father of 3 was arrested after leaving his youngest child in the car while he sat inside playing video games. on July 9th, 2024, according to multiple court documents previously filed in the case. Okay. He also allegedly searched for pornography on his PlayStation for a few minutes during that time, which that really is fairly meaningless. Okay. It's just meaningless. His wife discovered the child when she returned home that day, some 3 hours after Sholtes had returned from running errands with a toddler. The criminal complaint said that the temperature inside the vehicle that afternoon was 109 degrees. He admitted to the officers that he'd left his daughter in the car. He told the officers he'd left his daughter in the vehicle with the air conditioning on because she was asleep in her car seat and went inside the family home. He then claimed he forgot about the daughter because he was distracted. Now, there's a couple ways people leave kids in cars, and some I sympathize with and some I think are just egregious. One way is that, and I've seen this happen, and it's horrible. It's like, sorry, there's fruit flies. I had pineapple out. Let's say you're taking your child, you have two children, one is 2 years old and one is a baby, or someone's 5 years old going to school, one's a baby. And normally your wife takes the child to school and then goes home with the baby. And sometimes you take the older child to school and she's already home with the baby. But this time she had to do something. And so you took the older child and the baby, you go to the school, you drop the child off, and your brain tells you it's time to go to work. And since you normally don't have the baby in the car and the baby's sleeping, you drive off to work, you park, you get out, and you walk in, and the baby dies in the car. Sometimes, I mean, people, you can forget things. Hopefully not your children, but when you have a pattern, and then the pattern is broken, and your brain doesn't catch up that the pattern is different, this kind of thing can happen. In that case, I'm like, would I want to go to prison? Person go to prison for the rest of their life when they're probably absolutely destroyed over what happened, and probably the marriage is destroyed too because I could never look at him again. However, this case, let me tell you this case. So he said he leaves her in the car with the air conditioning on and goes into the house. He knew the child was in the car. And quite frankly, for God's sakes, why would you leave your child in a car outside anyway, just because she's sleeping in the air conditioning? How is that going to make a difference? I mean, at some point she wakes up and she's crying in the car because you're not there. So that sucks no matter what. So she's already asleep in her little carrier. You just pick the freaking carrier up and carry it into the house. So that is a really pitiful excuse here. And then the vehicle, he was also aware, the complaint also says he was aware the car engine in his vehicle turns off after 30 minutes, at which point there had been no air conditioning. So what was he doing? He doesn't say, I left her in there because I suddenly had diarrhea. The other kids ran in and I was like, I got diarrhea. So I just left her there and I ran in and then I forgot about her. He doesn't even say that. He's basically just left her there and went in and started doing video games. Investigators later interviewed the two surviving daughters who were 6 and 9 at the time, and both allegedly said that their father had previously left them alone in the car. A text allegedly sent to Sholtes by his wife as their daughter was being rushed to the hospital seemed to support the claim, as she texted, I told you to stop leaving them in the car. How many times have I told you? Yeah, he was released on bail and ordered not to have any unsupervised time of travel, but later approved to travel to Hawaii with his wife and 2 surviving daughters ahead of the trial. That's what you're talking about. I'm like, what? I mean, question I have about the Hawaii thing. If your whole family's in Hawaii, and they're not saying that your whole family wants to go home to grieve with the rest of the family, that would make sense. But if you're going on vacation, why the heck is he going to Hawaii? Does anybody know? Because if they're going because they already had tickets, and you're going to go to Hawaii and like, we're going to go to a luau and go surfing, go to Pearl Harbor, and we're going to have a great time. Hey, the 2-year-old's dead, but no, we shouldn't ruin the vacation for everybody. Who does that? And if the wife allowed that and went with him, who does that? She sounds she sounds like she's got issues too. So, yeah, unbelievable. That's unbelievable. He said maybe 45 minutes. It was 3 hours. Yeah, he was busy. Yeah, he was busy. Although the porn actually only took up it seems like he wanted one less hurrah. Maybe. Like you could, I mean, my kid's dead, but I'm going to have fun anyway. Sounds like the 3 kids were too much of a nuisance. I think that's very accurate. I like that, the nuisance thing. Kids are tiring. And if he's one of these guys that's like, all he wants to do is sit and play video games all day long, he's an immature brat himself. And he probably doesn't want to raise kids. And if he doesn't want to take care of children, his wife is fool to allow him to take care of the children he's incapable of doing. And you can do this all you want, but you as a parent, no matter if the other parent is a waste of space, you have to do your job to protect your children, regardless of the other parent. You can't just say, well, it wasn't fair. He should have done this or she should have done that. Well, maybe true, but if they don't, you're the remaining parent that has to keep them safe. Now, it's a big difference between keeping them safe and that person's just kind of kind of a loser guy. You know what I mean? It's a different thing. Like if he's doesn't hurt the children, doesn't put them in danger, but he's just kind of, whatever, or she's kind of whatever, fine. Maybe you can put up with that just because that's the father or the mom of the children. But if you know that guy's leaving the kids in the car in hot weather and you allowed it more than once, you got your own issues. Bad parenting, 100%, no question. But I like the nuisance one. I think that was very probably true. For many men, beer is definitely not an unimportant thing. And I don't know if he was drinking. That's a good question. Because that can be distracting. Now, it depends how much he's drinking, because a lot of guys can, down 6 beers and not even have hardly reaction. But that can be a distraction. And, yeah. Oh, did he? What? He did that? He went to a few stores with the daughter and stole beer? I did not know that one. That's fascinating. His oldest daughter from a previous relationship sued him and his wife for emotional distress. Okay, they're a whole bunch of creeps. There are some people that shouldn't have children, and some people who shouldn't have children remain with them. And a lot of times what we see is that happens. Speaking of that, how about this person? This girl has gone missing. Where is she? Hold on a second. Let me find her. I know I have a picture. Where is it? Where is it? Was it this one? Oh, no, that's not it. Sorry. Where did I do with it? I hate it when I lose my pictures, which I do often. Oh, here we go. All right, this one. They're searching for missing 9-year-old Melodee Buzzard. That's an unfortunate last name, which I think the Buzzards may be circling. Mom of missing girl Melodee Buzzard switched license plates during a road trip. The little girl's 9 years old. They were also wearing wigs. And here's another part of this story. Where is Melodee? Okay, so where is Melodee? She's gone missing. And this is the part that's annoying. Okay, here we go. Mom of missing girl Melodee Buzzard switched license plates during a road trip, which is why is she on the road trip, you ask. Okay. Oh, that's not the one I want. I want Daily Mail because I like Daily Mail. It's because, quite frankly, they are the best crime news outlet there is with the most information. Even if you think they're the Daily Fail. Okay, so just is that way. I thought I had that one here. Well, maybe I don't have. I thought I did. Okay. Anyway, so what happened was, what is the world? Hold on. Okay. So on October 7th, Melodee and her mom left on a 3-day road trip. I wouldn't say Melodee and her mom left on a road trip. I'd say the mom took Melodee on a road trip. my case, it's a challenge. She didn't go on or leave on a road trip. She was taken on a road trip from Lompoc, California to Nebraska area. Images show the 9-year-old in what appears to be a wig at a Santa Barbara area rental car business. A last verified sighting of her was October 9th. She was seen with her mom near the Colorado-Utah border. The next day, on October 10th, Ashley, the mummy, came home to Lompoc with a white 2024 Chevrolet Malibu she rented on October 7th, but Melodee was not with her. They're now focusing on where she could have been during that. So they went on through Utah and Arizona and California and Nevada. She went on this long road trip, probably because there's a lot of isolated places and desert with buzzards around. During the road trip, Ashley Buzzard allegedly removed the Malibu's California license plate and replaced it with a New York license plate, and then took it back off again when she returned back. So while she was driving around, she had a fake license, not the real license plate. So when they were looking for that license plate, it wasn't on the car. Pretty smart. So the original California plate was back on the car when she returned it to the rental agency in California. It appears, quote, the license plate was switched to avoid detection. Well, duh, So she's a missing person. And here's, where did it, see, and that's why I wanted the other one, because I have more information. Hold on one second, so I'm going to find it. Maybe it's down here further. This might be it. Okay, this is the Daily Mail one. Okay, so what I thought was interesting was the history leading up to this. She was reported missing by a school administrator. It is understood the youngster was being homeschooled, but she was still required to check in for assignments per state rules, which I know I've homeschooled 3 kids. I never checked in with the public school system, although for a while there was a rule that even if your kids didn't go to public school, they sent out the public school people to come to your house to see if you're actually teaching the kids, and you didn't have them on weaving looms and stuff like that. And the real issue was always funny. We always called it the pit bulls, because 2 women showed up at the door and they would come in and they were less interested in the children's achievements. They go, oh, do they have any books? Do they ever do math? Than they were about social issues. They were mostly concerned whether the children were being prevented from going to school so they wouldn't socialize with other children, especially of other races. This was a big, huge thing. Obviously, my kids didn't have, when they came to my house, I went, oh, never mind. So I always had the easy one. But then my friends some of my friends who were homeschooled happened to be white, and they happened to be married to a white person. I had one of my white friends, her husband was from Ecuador. So her kids were mixed enough, and so she didn't have any problems. But I had some white friends who were married to white people, all white, and all the kids were very white. And so they would call me up and go, they're coming over tomorrow, bring the kids. And then we would drive over and my kids would be playing there. So when the school people came in, they'd see, oh, look, the white children are socializing. And then the next day I go to another white people's house and we always laughed. Didn't they ever notice that these kids were like the same kids they borrowed my kids. They were the same kids. It was so stupid. But anyway, it was once a year. Now, there are sometimes programs so that was the most they had. And then if you went under an umbrella school, which I did after that, because it got annoying. So I went under an umbrella school, and therefore that eliminated having the public school system have anything to do with coming out and verifying, or, to my opinion, if my kids aren't in your school system, what do you have to do with it? So anyway, apparently in California, they I don't know whether it's because they're choosing to do the schoolwork that is presented to them from the school system, and therefore that would make sense if you're using their materials. But so it seemed that they check in for assignments. So they must have been going through some kind of homeschool, but still connected to public schools. And she didn't check in for the assignments. Since then, what happened was, so they weren't checking, and there was an extended absence. She wasn't turning in her assignments. And I want to point out this issue with homeschooling. For the most part, homeschoolers care about their children. That's why they homeschool, because it's a lot of work. And whether they go through a public school program, or whether they go through a private school program, or whether they do distance learning, or whether they do what's called unschooling, whatever, they care. But there are a few people out there who homeschool because they don't want the authorities to see what they're doing to their children. In other words, if your children are going to be abused emotionally, sexually, physically, you don't want that kid going into school and having the teacher go, "What's wrong with you?" and then reporting you to Child Protective Services. So that can be a reason. And in this case, I think that is the reason Melodee was homeschooled, not for the purposes of getting a better education. But here's what really bugs me. So the last photo was, she was homeschooled for the last year, was previously enrolled in Buena Vista Elementary School. Okay. And then it says, requires the students to pick up assignments from the school, blah, blah, blah. After the district reported the absences, they conducted a welfare check and they didn't find her there. When they did the welfare check, Mom couldn't provide a reasonable explanation for her daughter's whereabouts. I know, after they went on this lovely trip, maybe to learn about deserts and animals that live in the desert. Apparently she left her daughter in the desert and doesn't want to admit it. Anyway, now here's the interesting part, which is why I like the Daily Mail, because they somehow get more information than any other outlet. Melodee's father, Rubio Mesa, died in a motorcycle accident in 2016. Since his death, Mesa's family has said Ashley refused to let them have a relationship with Melodee. Rubio's sister, Bridget Truitt, told the affiliates that Ashley hadn't let the family see her for a few years. And all of us have tried it. We never stopped thinking about her. Then it says this. Daily Mail also previously revealed that Buzzard has a string of unpaid credit card debts. Meanwhile, let's see. The girl's aunt, Elizabeth Meza, told us she hadn't spoken with the niece or Ashley in 4.5 years. Ashley isolated herself and Melodee from the entire family, and we were told years ago that she was adopted out. Elizabeth added that Ashley had previously lost custody of Melodee due to mental health concerns. Then why was she back in that home with this person who clearly probably had mental health issues of some sort, whatever they were designated as, whether it be she was schizophrenic and psychotic, or that's why she was paranoid and didn't want anybody around her child, and then decided the aliens were coming or something, because you never know. I wish I had a picture of this, but the other day I was driving over to the art class at the senior center, and I stopped. This woman was stepping into the crosswalk, and I stopped, and I noticed she was probably homeless because she had a few too many bags and, those big tennis shoes and stuff, and she had what I thought was a sun umbrella, and she stepped into the crosswalk, and I saw her coming, and so I stopped, and then she was walking, and then she started walking very slowly, and I'm sitting there, and she's like barely walking, and I'm like, please get across the crosswalk so I can go on about my business. And then she stopped in the crosswalk, and then she turned and started walking down the middle of the street. And then I noticed that the sun umbrella, which I thought it was a metal pole with a metal top, and it had these spokes coming out. And she was looking around, and I'm thinking that was probably protecting her from the government or from aliens or whatever. So if you've got that kind of person raising a child, that child needs not to be in the home. Or if she's psychopathic, the child needs not to be in the home. And so she's got these issues, and yet she's left in the home, and her mother takes her on a field trip that she doesn't come back from. Be interesting to see. And she went on this is one of the problems. She went on such a long field trip in such isolated places. Now, I'm going to guess the chances of that child being alive. Now, some people, oh no, she sold her into sex trafficking. Probably not. Probably she killed it. That's my theory. And then the reason she's driving all over these isolated, very, very long areas is that she's looking for a place where she can leave the child. And since there's a lot of desolate area, it may be very hard to find a child. Now, I don't know that she would have the ability to bury her very well, but, so it remains to be seen whether somebody driving by, somebody hiking, somebody, whatever, they can locate this child. But I'm going to say that child's not going to be alive. So we're very sad for that poor little child. She was born the same year the husband died, I guess. Yeah. field trip. Yeah, it's very sad. Why did I homeschool? No, I homeschooled because it wasn't gun violence. No, this is way back when. I took when my daughter was 5. I'd always stayed home with my kids. I didn't send them to nursery school, so I was a Leche League leader and all kind of things. And I nursed my babies, and that was one of those. And so I went to the local school that she would go to for first grade, and I sat in on the classroom, and I was so appalled just with the behavior of the children and the behavior of the teacher that as I was leaving, I was told, you go down the hall down there, and you can sign in at the office and get your daughter registered right down there. And I went, thank you. And then I went right down there out to the parking lot, and I said, they'll never get you. They'll never get you. And then I homeschooled my children all the way through. Just if there was a great place to send them to school, would I have done so? Probably. But the area I was in, I really couldn't afford private school. So yeah, maybe made your kids well-rounded. Well, they might argue that point, but as all kids will argue, no matter what you do, you did something wrong. So, yeah, we don't know what that. I don't know what that is. I mean, the Daily Fail. Yeah, it is called the Daily Fail, and it's like the National Enquirer. I say this over and over. Nobody believes me because it's just everybody thinks of the National Enquirer in the U.S. as the scum, gossip, alien baby magazines that you always got. It was always sitting on the at the grocery store. It was always in the front, right? As you're going out, so you go, oh look, alien baby, and the Daily Fail is considered the same way in the UK. However, those two publications have the best crime stuff ever. And I actually used to do interviews with a particular reporter with the National Enquirer, the only media outlet that ever paid me for my interviews. And when he trusted me because he liked my profiling methodology. And when I spoke to him, I didn't get one sentence pulled out of and then chopped up and that's not what I said, because I don't do any print interviews anymore because of the way they edit me. It's not what I said, and sometimes it's slanderous and a few other things. But they never did that to me. When they had me interviewed, they had full paragraphs of what I said and in detail for like a page or two. It was really impressive. And I found that when there was a crime that went down, I grabbed the National Enquirer before I did all of my TV work, because that was the one place that had a good amount of information, where other channels and other media outlets were just doing a lot of plagiarism, just grabbing stuff from somebody else and throwing it out there. And the Daily Mail, I don't know how they do it, but they're a UK publication. But if any place in the world, you have that Australia case with Gus, the little boy Gus, the Daily Mail's over there like before anybody else, and they got the long story. It's like, what? Again, I looked up a bunch of stories about this. This thing was hugely long and had a ton of information. Is all of it necessarily accurate? I don't know, but I have found them more accurate, like the National Enquirer, more accurate than other media outlets. That doesn't mean they don't put a lot of garbage out there. They do. But the Sun, I had to file charges against them, libel charges against them, because they misquoted me and represented me. And so they aren't my favorites. So I have issues with most print media and most video, television and all that. But, of all of them, if I have to actually get information, I go to the Daily Mail. Go figure. Anna says, yes, I never used to read Daily Mail in the UK, but having started to look because of your thoughts on crime section, it's bizarre. This is true. They have extra info on everything globally. I don't know how they do it. So it's quite amazing. The poor girl was probably confused about why she was wearing a wig, wearing her hoodie up, not walking with her mom. Oh, she probably knew. Her mom probably told her they were going to, they were pretending or something. And she may not have been all that worried, because first of all, the kid's not thinking mom's going to take me some desert and do me in. I mean, who would think that as a child? I mean, you wouldn't think that. You probably think you're going on the coolest adventure. that she didn't come back from. Very, very sad. Yeah. Okay, then I want to do, let's go to the, I have some, oh yeah, I had something, UK stuff. Where is it? While I'm looking, you always ask about the cat. That's my feral cat, Mac. And I have, this time I was sitting there having my dinner and watching Chopped. And so I put his food out in the living room. And then he sat there for a while, actually looking like a real house cat. It didn't last long, but there he was with his eyes actually open. And the other day I did find him under the dining room table, and I was came out of my bedroom a number of times, and he was still there. And he let me walk into the kitchen and turn the light on, and went to the bathroom and turned the light on. And he stayed there for like 3 hours. So I think he's in my house a lot more than I know. So I'd have to put up like those cameras that pecks out movement to find out how much he's in my house. But I think he sneaks in a lot during the night and enjoys himself. So that's oh, she's up for parole. Yeah, she needs to stay where she is. I have a cat that was a feral kitten. Is really loving. Well, it helps when they're a kitten. Mine's a full-grown adult, and he's not loving. He uses me for food, and he stands on my lap and eats, but then he won't let me touch him. So he might miss me. Well, find out. I don't know. I'm going to put out dry food. My granddaughter has her job. She's going to come in every week, fill up the big dry food bowl, fill up the water bowl, and he will be able to come and go while I'm in Hawaii. And he might just I keep thinking he's going to come in and go, oh, thank God that big beast isn't here. So, I don't really trust him to think that he cares about me. So I don't have any illusions about that cat. Let's see. There was, okay, I want to do something. Oh, I know people, do I want to get to this yet? Maybe not. Hold on a second. This is just an interesting one. So this woman, as in, I don't have pictures for this one. French authorities do a DNA test to identify a body chopped in half and found on a riverbank. French investigators trying to solve a grisly murder case involving a body chopped in half that a French woman linked to the suspected victim has been arrested in Switzerland. He was dressed only in underwear, cut in half at the waist, and covered in a white substance. I don't know what the white substance is. Maybe baking soda, because it makes you smell better. It was believed the victim was a 75-year-old Swiss man who resided in the village of Saint-Croix. I don't know how to pronounce that. Next to the border of France, who was declared missing last week. Next to the border. So the idea was the person was thinking, bring the person over the border, and you have the issues, even though you have the, a little bit more fluid these days, but still, it's of course a border of maybe where jurisdictions investigate. The arrested woman is in her 30s and was believed to be the Swiss man's tenant. So they haven't got any more on that, but she chopped the guy in half. So a lot of times people do ask me about why people chop people up, and there's usually a few reasons. One is because they're trying to eliminate the identity of the person, so they chop them up and then distribute their body pieces in different places, to be then confused with garbage and everything else. Sometimes the reason they do that is because they live in a fourth floor walk up, and they kill the person in their apartment or their flat, depending on where you live. And they're like, how am I going to get this body out of the apartment into my car? And so they can't get the body down. It's too difficult. So what they'll do is chop it up so they can carry it in luggage or something, get it out of there, and sometimes in luggage or garbage bags or whatever. Sometimes they chop up bodies for fun, but in this case, the woman chopped him in half and then took him from Switzerland to France. So I don't know why she killed her landlord, but it's having been a landlady in my life, you never know. You got some whack job people that can come and live in your house, and the only reason I think she would have done that is, again, I don't know what she lived in. I don't know if it was a house or it was a flat that was like, she couldn't get the body down the stairs because she's a female, maybe, even though he's older, maybe lighter than, a guy in his 30s, might be like 250 pounds. Maybe she couldn't carry him or even put him on a rug and try to drag him out. So she put, usually people put him in a bathtub and then work at it. And then you have half the weight, so the guy weighed 100 pounds, now he only weighs 50. And maybe some of the blood goes out, maybe he'll be a little lighter. And so that's one possibility. The other possibility is that, once she did that, she could take him. Maybe she could fit him. I don't know if she's got a vehicle. I assume she had to have a vehicle, because it's really hard to take that kind of, it's hard to use the train, So I'm guessing she had a vehicle, and maybe she has a small vehicle, and this way she could stuff him in the vehicle better. So there's usually practical reasons why people do things like that. And but she's been caught, which is a good thing. And creepy story. To fit them in cases sometimes. Yes, this is very true. Yeah. So it's just a weird story. Now let's see. What did this you had asked me about specifically? Hold on a second. I just want to let you know I'm going to do this later. It is big in the media right now, and I'm going to do a whole video on this. But I want to let you know that I am going to do this video. It is on Pauline Pusser. She was the wife of Buford Pusser of the Walking Tall movie fame. He was a sheriff that carried a big stick and cleaned up, stills and stuff down in, I think, Tennessee. And it's a huge hero movie, and he was this wonderful sheriff. And then there was an ambush, and she was killed in the ambush, and he was shot in the face. 50 years later, so I think this was the whole big hero thing. 50 years later, the Texas Bureau of Investigation has come out and said they have reviewed all the files, and they have determined because both of them are dead now. And so Buford Pusser died many years ago in a car crash, like 40 years ago. And so they're now saying that Buford Pusser killed his wife. They have probable cause that if he were alive, they would take him to court. They would charge him, and they would take him to court. And that they found they exhumed her body and did autopsies and all this stuff, and have come up to the conclusion that she was murdered by her husband and not by some Dixie Mafia or something down there in an ambush. So I've been studying that for the last couple of days, and I'm going to do a video on that as to what I think about the evidence that they have, whether I think the evidence proves what they say, it doesn't prove what they say. So I'm going to do that, and I'm on nobody's side. I didn't even, I knew about Walking Tall. I don't know how many of you saw the movie, but I did watch Walking Tall after this came out. I'd heard about the movie, but I never saw it. So I watched it, and I'll say this. This is the original version with, what's his name? I forgot his name. Not The Rock. This is the original version with Joe, I forgot his name. Anyway, he's really good. He really plays the part well. The beginning of it I thought was really silly and not believable. But it was, as the movie went on, I really enjoyed it. It was very dramatic and all that. So if you're not looking at worrying about whether it's true or not, it was a good movie. I enjoyed it. And so then I watched that because a lot of people, having watched that movie, think that's what happened and have thought that's what happened for the last half a century. And now the TBI, Texas Bureau of Investigation, has come out and said that's not what happened. There was no ambush. She was murdered by Buford Pusser, who then staged this as an ambush to cover up domestic abuse. So I will be doing, right after this show, I will be doing a video on that, hopefully putting it out tonight. So that's coming up. Oh, I want to mention this. Illinois, this guy was convicted of murder. This is let's see. He was a deputy in the Sangamon County Sheriff's Office, and he shot a woman. This is the guy. He's been convicted. And one of the things I have a lot of problems with is, and I stand by this an awful lot of times. There's a lot of claims that police shooting people wrongly, especially when it comes to racial issue with a white police officer and a person who's black who gets killed, that they murdered the person and they were wrong in shooting them. And a good portion of the time, I do side with the police, not because, again, that's why I'm by myself here and I just look at evidence. And usually it's because I find the evidence does support the police statement. Usually the guy's a criminal of some sort, does something dangerous, turns with a gun in his hand or what looks like a gun in his hand, things that you shouldn't be doing after, you've been police have been chasing you. You've been going 100 miles an hour. You jump out of the car, you turn like this, and then they shoot you. And then you say, but it was his phone. Well, they didn't know that. So a good portion of time I do side with the police. In this case, I think he needed to be convicted. So this was the murder in the shoot. He was found guilty of murder in the shooting of Sonia Massey, a Black woman who called 911 asking for help. And there's a scene in here where this is the camera footage, so you can see the whole thing. And she calls for help. Then this woman has, unfortunately, she's I think she's schizophrenic, but they convicted him. Here's what happened. Grayson, that guy, and another deputy arrived at Massey's home in Springfield, Illinois, early on the morning of July 6, 2024, when she reported a prowler. He shot the 36-year-old woman after confronting her about how she was handling a pot of hot water she had removed from the stove. Grayson and his attorneys argued he feared Massey would scold him with the hot water. And so when I heard this story, I'm like, what? Anyway, it shows Massey in this thing who struggled with mental health issues, telling the officers, don't hurt me, please God. When the deputies entered the house, Grayson saw the pot on the stove and ordered Massey to move it. Massey jumped up to retrieve the pot, and she and Grayson joked about how he was backing off from the hot steaming order. And Massey then replied, I rebuke you in the name of Jesus. And he drew his gun and shot her dead. 3 shots right below the eye because he thought she was going to throw the pot at him of water. Now, first of all, yes, if he had been right near her and she had just simply grabbed the pot and clearly was going to throw it in his face, I get that. The dude was halfway across the room. He tells a woman who is obviously mentally unstable, because I think she's schizophrenic of some sort. I could see she had, some issues going on. You could tell the thing. He tells her to go over there and pick up the pot and move it off the stove. And then when she goes and does that, he shoots her. And then he says some interesting things. Grayson relented moments later and went to get his, after he shot her, he says he believed he was going to throw the pot of water at him. He said Massey's words felt like a threat. Well, rebuke you. Well, they could be, but still, the whole thing with the way it went down, it's like, and that he drew his gun because officers are trained to use force to get compliance. She's done. You can go get it, but that's a headshot. There's nothing you can do, man. Grayson relented a few minutes later, went to get his medical kit, while Farley, the other guy, found dish towels to apply pressure to the head wound. When Grayson returned, Farley told him his help wasn't necessary, so he threw his kit on the floor and said, I'm not going to even waste my med stuff then. Okay. His behavior was inexcusable, absolutely inexcusable. He was like, the woman was clearly not right in the head, and she was asking for help, and she was in no way in a situation. He was the one who made her go over to the stove with a hot pot of water. If he didn't want her to do that, if he was concerned, there were 2 police officers. He could say, please back away from the stove and stand against the wall, and have the other police officer go over there and pick up the pot, take it off the stove and turn it off, pour the water out, whatever. But he tells a mentally unstable woman, go over to the stove, pick up a hot thing of water, and then makes jokes with her. And when she makes a joke back, he shoots her in the head. And could she have thrown that pot of water to the distance to do any damage to him? My answer is no. So I think he deserves to be in prison. And that's a rare thing for me to say, but in this case, there was no excuse. No excuse at all. So it was horrible. Well, he told her to pick up the pot of stove off the stove. And yes, it might have been a pot of hot water. That's hard to heave at long distance also. And he was enough away. Now, I mean, if he was standing like 2 feet in front of her and she could throw it right in his face, I get that. Because I mean, that's you can destroy your face. But he was so far away. This woman wasn't going to be able to even if she threw the water out of the pot, it would have just, ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. That is not true. They are trained to shoot at any sign of danger. No, they are not. and she was trying to throw the hot water on them. No, she was not. She never, that you're incorrect on that. She was not trying to throw the hot water on them. There's no proof of that. And he was the one that told her to take the pot off the stove. He took her words as a threat. And my daughter's a police officer. Now I know a lot of police officers, and it's just you have a. Now people often say, "Well, if you're a police officer and something scares you, you shouldn't be a police officer." No, that's not true. You want to go home to your family. So if you're chasing a criminal down and he turns on you with a gun and you shoot him, I'm good with that because he was a threat. This woman was not a threat. The whole thing was handled badly. She was not a threat. There was no proof she was going to throw the water on him. And he was enough of a distance away. No, this was one of the most egregious things I've ever seen. And again, I'm very, very, almost all the cases that come in and go, oh yeah, I'm like, no. I'm usually on the police side on these things, not this one. So I just wonder what kind of character he was, yeah. These details are upsetting. A citizen would never feel safe at the officer. Oh, he shouldn't keep his job. No, definitely shouldn't keep his job. You have to be, obviously when you have people in your house who, the whole thing was just badly done. I mean, it just was. And if you watch that video, you will see, you just don't see that she was a massive threat at that point in time at all. Even if she was a little unstable and saying some weird stuff. No, I didn't see any necessity for him to shoot her down. No. Was he fired from previous jobs? Interesting. So yeah, I thought that was it. Just to show you that sometimes I do agree. I want to point this one out just because it bugged me. This woman, she died she went on this cruise, a 60-day cruise. It cost like $80,000, some outrageous thing. She went with her daughter in this beautiful area. She's out here. This is off of Australia, Queensland. And she went to a place called Lizard Island. And she didn't come back from Lizard Island. And the reason I want to talk about this, because I relate to this and why I think they're guilty of causing her death. And they just canceled the whole trip and gave everybody's money back. It was on the whole cruise, which they needed to do because where is it? Okay. Oh, come on. There's another one I've lost. No, come on. Stop. Oh, there. I found the ChatGPT thing. Remember, I was looking for that one. I found it. This one, the ChatGPT, just so you can see how chatfishing, it's called chatfishing. That's what I wanted to bring up. How chatfishing made finding love on dating sites even weirder. That was the chatfishing thing I was talking about. And it says here, this 36-year-old owner, Rachel, said she'd been building this rapport on a dating site. And from the beginning, was asking me very open-ended questions that felt refreshing. And she said, I was just, she was really into it. And then she found out, it was ChatGPT, not the guy. So, but anyway, it was there. I just lost it. Okay. So now the one that I'm trying to find, where did she go? Okay. Okay, I think I have to pull it up because okay, I'll just put Lizard Island and it'll show up. Lizard Island, missing, death. Okay, death cruise ship. Okay, so what happened was they're now investigating the whole thing, but she was 80 years old, which now to me is not that old. So, so she went on an excursion. So they were down at the Great Barrier Reef, and she's from Sydney, by the way, and she died after leaving her hiking group on Lizard Island during an excursion on day 2 of a planned 60-day luxury cruise, which was like $80,000, outrageous expensive. Her body was found on the island after a land and sea search was mounted when the ship's crew realized she was not on board. And so they left, and they left her. But that's not the problem. So the problem was, the ship docked at 6 p.m. on Tuesday. And okay, the first stop was Lizard Island. The ship, her absence was noted when she didn't come to dinner. Okay, they went back to see what happened to her. Now, here's what happened. the daughter said her mother is healthy and active. She had fallen ill on a hike to the island's historic Cook summit. We understand from the police it was a very hot day and Mom felt ill on the hill climb. She was asked to head down unescorted and never made it. What? Now I've done, there's two reasons why this means so much to me. Many reasons. Okay. I have done cruise ship speaking. And so I've had a number of cruises I did where I got the cruise in replacement for, I didn't get paid, but they flew me there and I got the cruise to do the speaking stuff. And I was also allowed to, you can sign up on this form to help people get, when people go on one of these, they sign up for a trip like this, then they have to get off the ship onto either a vehicle or a boat or whatever. And so you stand there with a number on the stick, and they're like, "Oh, I'm on number 15, tour number 15." And you stand there, and they all come, and then you walk with them to that location, and then that's your job is over then, and then you just get to enjoy whatever you got a free deal out of that too, and you just get to, like, I went on a snorkeling lunch and snorkeling, so I just held up the thing, and then I got to go to the boat, and then I enjoyed myself, and then when the thing came back, I had to hold up the thing again and lead people back onto the ship. So, but when you do tours, when any cruise ship does tours, here's the thing. Okay, so when you take a tour, the ship does not leave unless the tour is back and the people on the tour are back. If you decide not to go on a tour, but you decide to go on land and not go on a tour, and you don't get back to the ship, they'll leave without you, because they're not going to be responsible for people who just don't get back on time. They'd have to hold the ship up all the time for idiots. So I have had days when I came to port and I didn't want to go on one of the tours, and I went off by myself, taking local transport, local buses. I think I was on Barbados. I took a local bus with green monkey. They're not really green, but they're called green monkeys. I think it was Barbados. And I wanted to see them, and I wanted to eat some food and stuff, but I had to look and see, can I get back to the ship on time? Because if I don't get back to the ship on time, I am screwed. I won't make it on there. And then, since I'm the cruise ship speaker, I'm really going to be in trouble. But if you miss the ship, then you have to catch up with the ship at the next stop. If you're a regular passenger, you'll have to fly to the next stop or whatever you have to do to get there. And then you can reboard the ship, but they're not going to wait for you, because they can't do that, which is ridiculous. But if you take a tour, they will never leave without the tour group coming back. And the tour group is supposed to come back with the same amount of people it went with. That's their responsibility, to make sure that they don't lose somebody on the freaking tour, because that can happen. Somebody could go to the bathroom and not get back on the little tour bus or whatever. And so they went out, they took these people out, including this woman, and went on a hike and didn't come back with her. Now, they did something else which is horrific, which is they told her to go back on her own. 80-year-old woman who feels ill, seriously, go back down the mountain. I don't know how far away she was. Maybe they thought it was a short distance and she could just walk down there. You never, ever do that. There's a thing on a hike called a sweeper. You have the person in the front and you got a sweeper in the back. The sweeper in the back is to keep people from getting left behind, because, if you are slow. And so I had this happen to me in Guatemala, because I went on a tour, which turned out to be a whole bunch of 20-year-olds and me when I was 60, whatever, I was 60 something. And I had been kind of out of shape. So I'm like, so the first day I was fine. I managed to make it through the first day. The second day we were going uphill all day long to the side of this mountain. And like, I could not keep up. Thank God they had a sweeper, and the sweeper didn't just go ahead. No, everybody didn't just go ahead and they're going up here and now I'm way back here. And then and then I'm lost in the mountains someplace. No, sweeper stayed with me because I was the last person. And I was like an hour and a half late, but the sweeper stayed with me until I got there. So they should have had a sweeper. And I don't know if they did or they didn't, but to tell the woman to leave the group and to go down the mountain on her own when she's feeling ill, that is outrageous, absolutely outrageous. Everything a cruise ship should do, and a group, absolutely outrageous. They caused that woman's death. And you could say, well, the woman maybe should have known she wasn't capable of walking. but anybody you can get it's very hot out. You can be dehydrated and not realize you're getting heat stroke. Anybody of any age can have a problem. She was supposedly in good shape and had hiked a lot, so she wasn't worried about doing that. And and it could have been any age. But what if a 20-year-old said, I don't feel well, and they're like, okay, we'll go back down to the ship? No. You make sure that the person who runs that tour, they have enough people handling it that somebody can return to the ship with that person. Absolutely outrageous. Yeah. They've returned everybody's money, but I hope that's one of the few times I'm saying you sue the crap out of that ship. Oh, it's horrible. It's absolutely horrible. Absolutely horrible. They do stay in groups, and one of the reasons is, but they also count constantly. They count constantly. If you got 10 people in your group, you make sure you got 10 people in your group, and you don't leave somebody. Because you got to be very careful about that, because people can wander off. They can go to decide they need to go to the bathroom. They could sit down because they're not feeling well, and the tour just keeps going without them. That's why you have a sweeper on all these tours. You're supposed to have somebody in the back to make sure that nobody gets left behind. I think they're criminal. Absolutely. In my opinion, I'm not a lawyer. I would say 100% criminally liable for her death. Absolutely. It doesn't even matter if it's a large cruise ship or not. The fact is, if they're going to do tours, they're responsible for the people on their tours. Again, if she got off the ship and decided to go up Lizard Island by herself and do whatever, that's her business. And she dies doing it, so be it. But when you're on that tour, they're responsible for you. And I just thought it was horrible. Just horrible. It's just one of those weird cases that just like, you gotta be kidding me. Yeah. Okay. I was asked to talk about Maya, which is always something that everybody, people take sides on that, and it gets very, very vicious. Okay, so the case, which is on Netflix, was Take Care of Maya. I did a whole show on it. If I remember, I'll link it. I thought that the claims that were made and the suit against the hospital were exaggerated, and they did not deserve to win, in spite of some of my feelings about hospitals and social workers in hospitals. I have my issues with them, but I thought they got $208 million. And so the Florida, it says right here, the case gained national attention through Netflix documentary Take Care of Maya, which told the story of Maya Kowalski, who was just 10 years old when she was treated at a hospital in 2016. Maya suffered from complex regional pain syndrome, which is known as CRPS, a rare and painful condition. Her mother, Beata Kowalski, a registered nurse, pushed for ketamine treatments to help relieve her daughter's severe pain. Hospital staff grew concerned about the treatment plan and questioned the diagnosis, believing Maya might be a victim of medical abuse, basically Munchausen syndrome by proxy. They reported the situation to the Florida Department of Children and Families. The report led to a court order placing Maya in hospital custody for more than 3 months, separating her from her parents. During that period, Beata died by suicide. That's the mother. In 2023, a Sarasota County jury found the hospital liable for false imprisonment, medical negligence, battery, fraud, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. They initially awarded the family, mostly Maya, $261 million, though the judge later reduced it to $213 million. Now, they appealed it, the hospital. They said that they made legal errors in applying Florida's, quote, good faith immunity law, which protects healthcare workers who report suspected child abuse. They said that the hospital acted appropriately in making the report, and that the lower court should have dismissed several claims or ordered a new trial. Some parts of the case aren't over yet. Claims including intentional infliction of emotional distress, false imprisonment, battery, and medical negligence may still be retried. All right. And then the hospital's attorney said that Take Care of Maya was a one-sided narrative, which I agree with. So the case continues to raise difficult questions about how far hospitals should go when they suspect child abuse. And that is a big, fat issue. And one of the reasons, some issues over this Maya case, which is, first of all, I'm not saying Maya did not have the condition that her mother claimed she had. It's one of those things that are very difficult to diagnose, and are diagnosed mostly by more of the symptoms than and proof of certain things. Ketamine is one of the methodologies that is used. Her mother did extreme stuff. The mother took her to Mexico and had her put into a coma, and because she couldn't get that kind of treatment in the United States. And then and then her own doctor that was giving her ketamine said something about it couldn't treat anymore at that point. And so she took her to the hospital and demanded ketamine. And the hospital was like, we can't give ketamine to her because we don't know exactly what she's been diagnosed at. What's wrong with her? And she goes, well, my doctor says it's this. Well, I don't care what that doctor said. Just because a doctor says something doesn't mean that you can treat that person based on somebody that isn't even working for you in the hospital that claims something. Could be true, but if I come in and say, I have whatever condition, and I have some doctor in Maryland who says I have the condition, you think the hospital is going to take my word for it and that doctor's word for it? So I go, first we're going to have to test you. Anyway, Maya's mother, Beata, in my opinion, exhibited every symptom, every behavioral thing of Munchausen syndrome by proxy. That doesn't mean Maya couldn't have had a condition, but that the mother could have exploited the condition or exaggerated the condition and had her daughter do things that to basically keep her, the mother, in the limelight and getting all the attention. So there was reasons to say that she was a little questionable as far as what happened. Now, if I can find this thing, and I saved from, I looked at the report. Okay. So what's interesting is this. Where is it? Okay. 1 week after Mrs. Kowalski's suicide, the dependency court allowed Maya to be released and to resume living with Mr. Kowalski. The dependency case was ultimately dismissed. During the months that Maya was sheltered, she was weaned at the hospital. She was weaned off of ketamine, and the dependency court order releasing Maya prohibited additional ketamine treatments. Maya had been admitted this is when she had been admitted. She was in severe pain, unable to walk, and receiving high doses of ketamine. So this is a treatment that was supposed to be helping her, which didn't seem to be helping her. When she was discharged, she was still in significant pain and unable to walk. At the time of the trial, the only medications she routinely took were Claritin, Flonase, and a sleep aid. She had been able to walk, run, and ice skate. She testified that she had experienced no CRPS flare-ups in the 3 years following her discharge from the hospital. That right there, that shows me that the mother may well have had Munchausen syndrome by proxy and been pushing her to be as ill as she could be. When she went to the hospital, actually, by stopping the ketamine treatments and going through this process, she seems to be doing fine now. Maybe she still has CRPS, but not to the extent that she had it when her mother was taking care of her. Now, sorry, the fruit flies back. Now, I'm not saying that everything they did. There was one particular woman who was a social worker, which, according to all the claims and everything, she wasn't the nicest person. And I just don't know how much of that is true, because you're getting a lot of viewpoints of people. The father saying she said this, So I'm not going to go back into all that. I've had my bad experiences. I'll tell you the one bad experience I had, so you can understand that I'm not like always on one side. My son had he got meningitis when he was 3 weeks old, and I was debating whether this one. I was debating whether to take him to the hospital or not, because I believed it was probably viral, and chances are 95% chance it was viral, and that taking him to the hospital would do no good. And but on the 5% chance it was bacterial, then getting the medication might save his life. So because of that 5%, I felt I had to go to the hospital. So I did. And I got to the hospital. He did have meningitis, and they immediately started on medication, and I was happy. Then they said, we want to do a spinal tap. And I said, why? They said, we want to find out if it's bacterial or not. I'm like, does it matter? You're giving him the medication anyway. I don't want my 3-week-old baby getting a spinal tap, because there's no purpose in it, because the treatment's the same. I don't need it documented whether it's one or the other. Well, it doesn't matter. And then they threatened to take custody away from me if I did not permit that. And so I finally gave in, because I didn't, there was really nasty threats. And they did the spinal tap and they screwed it up and they did it twice. So I was pissed. And then when they came back as not bacterial, so I was right to begin with. And then at a certain point, I just signed him out against doctor's orders and took him home because he had gotten the full dose and he didn't need to be there any longer, and they weren't releasing him. So I just signed, and I was able to leave. And then they try to send social services after me to see if I was a crappy mother, So believe me, I understand that they can overstep their bounds. That yes, they do have to protect. If you have a child that comes to you for care and you think they're being abused in the way that they thought Maya was being abused, they do have they're required to do something about it. Just like a teacher. If you say somebody comes in to a teacher and they got bruises all over their body, the teacher might have to say something to social services and say, look, this kid keeps coming in with this and all kinds of weird things, and I think she's being abused at home. And maybe she just falls a lot. Maybe it's true, but in my case, I think they overstepped because they didn't need to do what they did. They didn't need to threaten me to get a spinal tap. They didn't need to do the spinal tap. So I was enraged. I was really pissed. So I understand because I'm not overly fond of that kind of thing. And I was a homeschooler. And again, a lot of times the government wanted to prove that I was trying to keep my children from being, I don't know what, I was abusing my children at home, so I didn't want to send them to school. You see, that can happen. But if you do things that are a little different, like a family bed, for example, which is now back in the news as being the worst thing you can ever do, never sleep with a child, you're killing them. But I had a family bed. My kids always slept with me when they were young, and they nursed them. And then they got old enough, 4 and 2, I think finally kicked them out. But if you have a family bed and they come to your house and don't find a crib, they can take your children from you. So I'm very, very aware that the government can overstep, in my opinion, and take away parental rights that they should have, and they're not actually protecting. But they think they're protecting the children, but they're not necessarily protecting the children. It's just their particular viewpoint is in conflict with a parent's viewpoint of what is good for their children. So in this case, in hospitals, they can overstep. And in the case of Maya, because of the behavior of the mom demanding just because she says so, they're going to give her that ketamine treatment. They got very suspicious very quickly about Beata, and I think they were correct. I do believe Beata was Munchausen syndrome by proxy, and I think she was making her child worse on purpose because she wanted the attention. And Beata is doing way better after she went to the hospital, and you can see her; she's out partying and all that kind of stuff. And so I think they overdid it. And maybe that one woman wasn't the nicest person, and maybe there are some issues that they didn't handle it as well as they could. So maybe there is some reason some part of the lawsuit was reasonable, but I thought the 200 million was kind of insane. They didn't kill off Beata. That's the claim, is you pushed that woman into suicide. Nah, I don't believe that. There were some really weird things that the Kowalskis could have done to stop this whole thing, but Beata Kowalski was not cooperative, and so that's why the things went on the way they did. But yeah, the actual Netflix show was very one-sided, and a lot of people got, when I did my thing to say this is what I thought, got very angry with me and unsubscribed, because they're like, how dare you? This hospital tortured this kid, and she definitely had what the mother said she had, blah blah blah. Yeah. So, and again, we can all have different opinions about different levels of things, but I can see why there's an appeal. So crib is for governmental purposes only. I mean, there are different parenting methods that people have. And, and there's always that question of whether one thing is okay and one thing is not okay. It depends on who's running the narrative as to what is considered, this is what you have to do to be a good parent. And if you don't do that, you're not a good parent. And then we want to take you away. So we're generally speaking, yes. And many times they're very good. When I got my eyes done, I have to say, wow, I was extremely impressed by the surgical center. They were great. I mean, they were, and I'm averse to doctors in general. As I point out in my last physical was 1990. So I did work in hospitals for 13 years as an interpreter. That was my job, medical interpreting. So I've been in the ER, and I love working in hospitals, but I didn't want to be a patient in one. And I've met so many wonderful nurses, doctors, and people working in hospitals. And so I have a lot of good feelings for them. But as a patient, I don't really like being there. And so when I had to go get the surgery done, I'm like, I don't want to go. I don't want to go. But they have to really, I was very impressed by the way I was treated, the care I got, and the fact I can freaking see. Pretty cool. Yeah, have a crib and never used it. I had a bassinet, which I held the toys. But we all have different parenting methodologies, and we're not all going to have the same ones, and we shouldn't expect that. But when it comes down to your children in the school, the system, or the schools, or the hospitals, on one hand, they are available to help, with your children's education or health. On the other hand, some people in those systems may be in opposition to the way you believe your children should be educated or medically cared for. So, I mean, that's the way life works, So, I don't know that she was using the ketamine. I honestly can't remember. I mean, it's been a while since I did the whole thing on the show. So, so if you want to see that, you have to go back and watch my whole video on it. Yeah, I lost a lot of subscribers on that video. People were pissed off at me. And I wasn't saying that. A lot of people thought I was saying that she didn't have CPRS, and that I was downplaying the torture that CPRS can cause people, and I was not. I'm simply saying that just because somebody diagnoses you with that doesn't necessarily mean you have it, or you're having the symptoms the way the mother said she was having them. So because the mother was controlling, that's why they wanted the child out of the mother's care, because they wanted to see whether, without the mother telling her what to do and how to think and how to behave, whether she would not need the ketamine, whether she would get up and walk and all those kind of things. Now that her mother's out of the picture completely, apparently she's doing pretty well. Now, can I absolutely attribute that to the fact the mother is no longer in control, or that the hospital cured her? I can't, because you can't prove those kind of things, but it is interesting. So it was a buggy again. Let's see, what else did I want to talk about here? So many things. I never get to everything. And sorry, the bugs are just flying. In the show, I never get to everything, because otherwise we'd be here for the next 4 hours. But I got a few minutes left, so let me see what I want to talk about. And then whatever I didn't talk about this week, I'll move to next week. Let's see. I'm going to save that for next week. Let's see. I'll save that for next week. Maybe I'll save that. I got a lot of things here. So many things here. Okay. I was asked to do this like weeks ago. Let me make sure I got everything else today. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to talk about this as my last one for today, and then I'll shovel everything else. This one was asked me to talk about a while back, and I didn't get to it. And her name, I can't pronounce her name. Jiao. It's Chinese, so Jiao. I don't know. Anyway, this young woman, she talking about cases of mutilation, and this is a case of mutilation. She was born in Shengao, in Jiangsu, in China. The family is very poor. She dropped out of school to find work, but her older sister dropped out, went to work, but she continued her education. She did very well, so she kept moving up, and she then got to attend university. So she arrived in Nanjing in October 1995 to attend the University's School of Adult Education. She majored in computer applications at the Department of Information Management. To avoid disrupting her studies, her family limited communications with her, even as far as not notifying her about the death of her grandfather and her sister's marriage. Wow. Okay. She was described as introverted and simple, and she did not enjoy interacting with people. So it's a weird family, just to say. They're weird, and she was weird. Okay. But she was doing something good. She was going to school, and then she was going to be able to support herself. Or maybe the rest of the family. But here's what happened. On the evening of 10th of January, the roommate was punished for illegal use of electrical appliance. And she was expected to pay a partial amount of the fine. Well, she's like, wait a minute, it was my roommate who did it, but I guess because she was there and noticed it, she was going to be taken down with her, leading to conflict with the dormitory management. Afterwards, she left the building and did not return. She was last seen alive wearing a red coat with a black lining. She was reported missing, but her family was not notified by the authorities until her discovery of her body on the 19th of January. So she was missing for 9 days, and then they found her body. Well, or did they find her body? They discovered her remains. A sanitation worker found meat in a bag. This is the bizarre part of the case. A sanitation worker found meat in a bag while sweeping the road. He thought the meat was pre-cut into nice slices, and he thought it was pork. So he brought it home to prepare for dinner. Now, first of all, you wonder why somebody would find a bag of meat on the side of the road and decide you should eat that bag of meat. But I guess I'm going to say he might have been fairly poor, and maybe getting meat was one of those luxuries. And he's like, oh man, slices of pork, delicious. So he brought it home. And when he started preparing the food, he found 3 fingers in the bag. It's awful. It's just, okay. So then he reported the discovery to the police, and they said, yeah, all that meat, human meat. Luckily, theoretically, he didn't eat it. We don't really know. Human remains in plastic wrap packages were eventually discovered across 8 locations in central Nanjing. Southwest of the campus, they found packages at a construction site. And then they found more bags on a bridge. And then at the main building of the university, they found at the entrance and at the sports stadium, they found more remains. Her scattered remains, they confirmed the scattered remains, and then they asked her father to visit Nanjing, for some reason. Finally told the family, I guess. Between 20 and 30 of January, her head and clothes were found north of the university. Now, this is where it gets just bizarre. More than 2,000 human remains were found, most cut into rectangular slices. Her head and internal organs were boiled for several days. Her heart, liver, and spleen were never found. And all they knew was it was her in many, many pieces. Police concluded that the murderer must have been a professional butcher or a surgeon. They never found who it was. They had 2 suspect profiles. A single, physically fit, middle-aged male, which is completely meaningless, so I don't know who made that stupid profile. They couldn't find any individuals that match. Well, maybe because where did they come up with that? First of all, why would he have to be single? What, because they had time to chop her up, I guess. Physically fit, she wasn't that big. I didn't be that physically fit. Middle-aged. How would you know this person's middle-aged? Could be a 25-year-old, you know? Anyway, they didn't ever have any, they didn't ever succeed in finding out who it was. Nanjing University refunded her tuition fees. That was important. Oh my God. And then this whole information went out to the public that there was a killer targeting short-haired women in red coats, stupid stuff. They filed a lawsuit against Nanjing University for $246,000 to seek justice. That was to seek justice rather than compensation. Did they win? I don't know if they won or not, but I don't know what the university has to do with that. She was abducted and sliced up. I don't see how the university has any business being sued. And this I see a lot everywhere. I find that just amazing that, a woman worked at this company and then she got murdered walking home from the building, and they sue the company. Why? What did the company do? You know, it's ridiculous. So I don't think that you can complain about Nanjing University for charging her for the electrical appliance thing that her roommate shouldn't have had, but that didn't cause her to be abducted and murdered. Since she was very much of a loner, didn't sound like she was going to go to a bar and drink, or that she was going to pick up some dude. I mean, none of that, unless they're lying about her. So it seems to me that maybe she was just walking around and just somebody grabbed her. And as far as the way he then did her body in, 2,000 pieces. First of all, I don't see a doctor doing this. He got, that to me, I don't see this as a professional. I think he's got, it's very unusual for a doctor to do something like that. Just because he's a surgeon, he's going to be chopping up people on a regular basis. Does he really need to chop up a girl? A butcher could be, because butchers do slicing and stuff. I mean, this is in China and not Japan, but I'm thinking sushi. That's terrible. But little rectangular pieces to me almost sounds like sushi. Nice raw meat, raw whatever. And that way it would be very, very thin, and that body could then do 2,000 pieces. If somebody was very meticulous, very, very meticulous, and they must have had that body around for a really long time to do that to the body. But they weren't apparently they weren't, unless except for the large organ parts, weren't necessarily doing the Silence of the Lambs thing and having a glass of wine with it, because they got rid of all the pieces. They were putting them in different bags and distributing them all over the city, almost as just a big thrill thing, that you're not just going to find her body, you're going to find her everywhere. But I would say this guy was not living with anybody. I would say this is a real whack job, living by himself. And there was another case. I think the guy was Japanese, who had a similar thing where he abducted this girl. I think it was a dating app though, and it was a long time ago. I'm trying to remember it, but he brought her back to the apartment, and he spent a lot of time doing similar stuff. I know it's the same guy. Maybe he lived in China, but that kind of person is very, very has some weird obsession, and to keep that person. So they had to have a private place to keep the body for a really long time, and nobody's going to find out about that. And it's such an unusual, freaky thing that, other than to say, it sounds like sushi to me, sashimi. But more than that, I wouldn't. And that he's likely is a very kind of creepy loner dude, that he would do something like that, and to distribute the parts all over the city, in little bags. So I guess there was some cheap ass thrill he got, probably bicycling along, and then he just put the little thing down and keep going. And or that was one way. Again, he's in an apartment complex, and it's the only way he can get her out of there is in pieces. So he slices her up nicely and puts her in little bags and keeps taking the bags out. That's another possibility. Very creepy. I have no more to say on that, but it's bizarre. Yeah, he must have he did take his time. So to be able to do that and do it so precisely, you have to really be into it. I swear to God. Now this was in when was it? 1996. Now I don't know. I've been in China twice. And my granddaughter's a big sushi freak, so I'm always taking her out for sushi, sashimi, always eating Japanese stuff. But I don't remember when I was in China. I don't know what the issue there is with sushi or, any kind of that kind of preparation of fish and meat, mostly fish usually, but then again, no. So, I mean, if I were there, I'd be looking for somebody who did that as a profession, some little weirdo in the back room who did slicing like that, just because it's such an odd thing to do with such precision that it had to be something I couldn't slice that well. I buy mine done, what I mean? And, I bring it home or I eat it at the restaurant. I don't have that perfection. And the fact that there were little rectangular pieces just tells me I'd be looking in the restaurant industry. I don't think it's I don't know. I'd look in the restaurant industry. I would, before I look at anything medical. This is true. Okay, I'm going to go back and say that you might be right about that. As a lab tech, you work in a pathology lab. They cut specimens into minute pieces. I'm gonna say maybe, Maybe that, more of a lab tech that would be doing, putting things under microscopes and stuff like that. Okay. I'll go with that. I'll be looking in the, see, there's two directions to look. That was very good, both of you who said that. OCD plus psychopath. You wonder, because that's pretty obsessive to do the entire body and not just sliced up a couple, bits and throw it out and then said the hell with this and then just, the bigger chops, So, is he still on the loose? Yes, I guess, because I don't know. 1996. Nah, well, that's 30 years. Never been caught. Did he repeat? I mean, obviously they didn't have another crime like this with a person that was chopped into 2,000 pieces, but could be that he was such a whack job. Most serial killer types, aren't going to kill themselves because like what they do, but there are some who will take themselves out because they're so deranged to begin with that they do something. They're like this, and then their lives are they're such a weirdo mess that so it could be that he's dead, because I don't know that he would have committed other kinds of crimes that would have him incarcerated for, it's not like he's abducting and raping. Well, he could have raped her. There's no proof that he didn't. So he could have done that too. We just don't know, but it's pretty bizarre. It's pretty bizarre. And so, yeah, I don't know. Does your dog, be careful, Lisa. What happened to Lisa? That's terrible. I'm just awful. Anyway, somebody asked me to do that, and it wasn't so much that I could actually determine, but yeah. You might be asking more a case of was he working in funeral home type things, and it's still pretty. I can't think of another case where somebody was sliced into 2,000 pieces. I mean, that's just, now there are, interestingly enough, there are more weird knife crimes out of Japan and China than other countries. I don't know why that is, but a lot of more weird stabby things and stuff like that. I mean, there are some, for some reason there, I don't know if it's a lack of other weapons or it's some part of, every culture has its little weird side, or something in the culture that that becomes just part of you. And then normally that's a healthy part of you, but then that little bit goes off this way, and, but that does seem to be kind of an issue. And I just don't know, and when I've looked at a lot of weird crimes, there are some really weird crimes. So not that other countries don't have a lot of other types of weird crimes. They do. Every country has its thing. If one were to write a book, one could say, what are the weird crimes of countries, and then put in all these different countries and look at the ones that are peculiar to that country, and try to figure out why. Because here's the thing: if you're a psychopath, you have to have an avenue for your psychopathy. And if you're nonviolent, there's different versions of being a psychopath in different countries where you can do what you want to do without being a murderer. Then there are psychopaths who are murderers. And if you look at different countries, they have different ways of murdering, different things that they get into, depending on sometimes culturally what the country, what the lifestyle of the country is, what the political thing of the country is, and all of that. So there's these things where sometimes you look and say, wow, that's pretty much only happens in that country. And it's not because it's still a psychopath. It's just it's just the methodologies and the interests might be different. So there are swords in both cultures. They are very big on the sword stuff. I mean, my granddaughter's into all the anime stuff and all that, and the Dragon Slayer thing. And my God, they basically chop up everybody. It's like, oh my God, it's like, yeah. So I'm keeping her away from my knives. So Anna says, hyper focused on his project. I wonder if he's so deranged. He thought it was a clever way to dispose of the body, but clearly it wasn't. Well, it did work. What are you talking about? It never got caught. Worked pretty well. The question is, how long did he have the body, and where did he have the body that he had the ability to keep the body? I would assume maybe it needs at least a refrigerator or a freezer, because where would you keep that body to have the time to do 2,000 slices, unless he's just, like you say, maybe over-focused and kind of, I guess you could do it really quick if you're really good. So freezer for sure. Fascinating. I mean, it's just a weird case. And so that's why I do these at Hangout sometimes, because I can't do a whole show on something that I can't really, there's some things you can't analyze to any great extent. Maybe if I were there and got more information, sitting in China, and the police, well, we'll all be in Chinese, so that would suck because I couldn't read anything. Oh yes, I can use my, now you can use the translator thing. You just hold it over the page and it translates it. It's really pretty cool. So that helps. Oh no, this is a good point. Or I'm trying to make sense of nonsense. It's impossible. Well, that is a problem when people say, what is the motive on crimes? Why would somebody do this? It's like, oh, well, are you a psychopath? Are you like highly deranged? I mean, Ed Gein, really? Why did he do that? Because he felt like it, because he enjoyed it. When you look at a lot of people with sexual paraphilias, that they get obsessed, like, well, let's see, what am I thinking of here? I'm just blanking. Okay, I'm blank all the time. The animal ones, furries. So you have people who dress up as animals and find it sexually exciting, and big furry animal costumes, like a big rabbit. Seriously, it's like, I'm sorry, if you're a furry, you could use some psychological help. I'm just going to say, I refuse to say that's normal, and I refuse to say everybody has their own thing. No, if you're a furry, you're abnormal. You have sickness in you that finds that something you are interested in. When you have people who heavily into violent kind of sex and stuff like that, there's something wrong with you. Sorry, there is. There's something wrong with you. And so the people have mental conditions. They have their things that are wrong in their, not necessarily the brain is wrong, but just the way their mind is thinking. That they're fascinated by things that are sick and harmful and hurtful, especially when it comes to other human beings. And so therefore, there's something wrong. That is not a healthful, normal condition. And if you're one of those people, a lot of people go into communities, like let's say you're into cannibalism. And it's claimed that, oh, as long as you don't actually act out on the cannibalism, just because you have an interest in cannibalism, that's like it's a fantasy of yours to eat people. that is your right. Well, I will say this: if you don't actually eat people, and it's a fantasy in your mind, it's not illegal. Now, my opinion, the people who have these kind of fantasies and go on the internet and spread these fantasies and foment these fantasies by getting in rooms and discussing and showing pictures of cannibalism, and a lot of times it's sexual as well, fantasizing about it. They're also promoting it to other people who maybe have some mental issues, and now they're into it. So I think it is dangerous, and I don't think it should be out there in that sense, because then some people, they want to take it to the next level, and they do take it to the next level, and they kidnap somebody and they get to fulfill that fantasy. But at no point is being excited by cannibalism, by wishing you could eat people, and by be sexually stimulated by cannibalism. You are not normal. Okay, you are sick in the mind, and you need help. And I refuse to say, oh, everybody does his own thing. It's just a kink. No. Some kinks are past the point of acceptable. Okay. I mean, it's just not acceptable. It's not okay. And I wish people would stop promoting every kink in the world as being just, somebody's creative thinking. And it's perfectly fine. No, it's not. It's sad. It's really sad. So anyway, that's my speech. I thought they like that they're anonymous in a costume. Okay. Maybe they do like that, but you know. Okay, TKM. I have a fantasy of rolling around in billions of dollars. Can I make that happen? Well, can I roll around with you? Some fantasies could be inspiring. Then you go out and figure out how you're going to make the money, you know? So, oh my God. Okay, I'm going to stop here. I got to go try to get myself together to do the video on Buford Pusser and the evidence. And so I will let you all go, and whatever I saved from last week, do next week. Thanks, Pat. Good show. Your peepers seem much better. Oh, it's amazing. It's like, whoa, everything is bright. It's clear. The colors are bright. It's freaking amazing surgery. So last week I was able to like cover up the bad eye and look in this was bright and clear. And then I go like this and it was like dark and gray. I'm like, oh, look at that. That's really cool. And this now, when I got both fixed, I can't do that anymore because I can see, although I need reading glasses. So I will be getting my new reading glasses in about 4 weeks. And meanwhile, I have the big ones. So you're late. How dare you? Yeah, you're welcome. Oh, you were late too? Everybody's late. Thank you very much. I'm glad. Again, if you're new to the channel, please like and subscribe and check the playlists and join Patreon if you'd like to be in with the group. The show will be probably again on Saturday because I've got the obligation on Sunday. I think we're on week 3. I think it's 2 more weeks. My Sundays are blocked off, and then maybe I'll go back to Sundays. I kind of like Sundays better than Saturdays, but probably be Saturday afternoon when I figure out what I'm doing. And but I better figure out pretty soon. And I hope to see you there. So good night, Christoph. There goes the bugs again. I tell you. All right. So I will see you guys soon. Bye.